What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Water Cooler Talk. My name is Caleb Turner, and I'm a sports writer at KSL.com. It's Sunday, July 27th. We're coming at you on the other side of a 2-week hiatus from this podcast. I took a trip to the East Coast, went to visit my brother in New York, and now I'm back in Utah, back in the hot, smoky haze of it all that we're dealing with without much precipitation here in the Salt Lake Valley. It's a good time. There was a fire somewhat close to where I live that got me a little nervous while I was gone, but luckily my apartment was still here when I got back. And thoughts with those who were displaced from that Mill Creek fire. Hope everyone's doing okay. It's been an interesting couple weeks in the Utah sports scene. Just a heads up, this will be a bit of a soccer-heavy episode tonight, with Real Salt Lake being the highest profile in-season team right now. So if you're not super into soccer, I guess you can just turn this one off right now. But if you want to stick around, which I hope you do, we'll be talking about some fun stuff because RSL is doing well for the first time all year. They're on a good stretch right now. So we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about a couple other news and pieces and nuggets here and there that happened over the last 2 weeks as we've been on break. And to start things out, this was kind of a fun one, an unexpected one that I saw while I was gone, which was an MLB insider saying that Salt Lake was one of the strongest expansion options for MLB, Major League Baseball. And this came a few days ago. July 23rd was when our guy Carter Williams, our baseball guy over on KSL.com, posted this one. And, this was a little bit of how some of the hockey rumbling started, as talks of expansion in NHL obviously picked up. There was the talks of the calendar and looking at what might happen with Arizona. Obviously, there's not an exact equivalent of the Coyotes situation in MLB. I think a lot of Utah fans hoped that it might be the Oakland Athletics that might be the equivalent to bring that team to Salt Lake, at least for a temporary period, while they wait for their new stadium in Las Vegas. But they ended up going to Sacramento instead, staying in Northern California. So it won't be the A's. This is going to be expansion. I know technically, I think the Mammoth, or Utah Hockey Club as they were back then, was considered an expansion team. But as we well know, all the players and staff from the Arizona Coyotes were brought over in that switch. There was a bit of a rumor there for a second about the Diamondbacks, another MLB team from Arizona, perhaps making a move to Utah eventually. But it's looking like that won't exactly be the case. MLB, similar to a lot of leagues like NBA, looking at the possibility of expansion as other cities in the country grow, as the talent pool within the league grows. I think there becomes more possibility of more teams to be able to spread out that talent among a couple more teams. So for those big league Utah hype members, there's a whole organization dedicated to this for bringing an MLB team to Utah. They've already got those plans set up for an MLB size stadium near the Fair Park, in between I-15 and the airport, and not too far from downtown. So if MLB was to come to Utah and say, "Hey, we're looking for expansion. What can you guys give us?" I think the Utah proposal could be among one of the best among those looking to break into MLB. So an exciting kind of thing to think about, to dream about, to daydream about during these summer doldrums, as there's not a lot of other sports going on. Baseball is going on. Obviously, we've got the Bees going, we've got MLB going. No major league in Utah right now, but every once in a while we get a little taste. Maybe a big leaguer coming down for his rehab assignment to the Bees. I know there was that brief Mike Trout stint, a little bit of possibility of him coming to play with the Bees last summer. And so you get a little bit of that here and there, but it would be a whole nother beast having teams like the Yankees and whatnot, the Dodgers, come into Salt Lake City, right? That would be quite the treat, as we've seen with NHL as well, having teams that you hear about: Bruins, Florida Panthers, Stanley Cup winners, Edmonton Oilers coming in town, playing in Salt Lake City. It's certainly a dream come true for a lot of local fans who have not been able to see any other top 4 team except for the Jazz in the past. Speaking of the Jazz, congratulations to Kyle Filipowski, who was named Summer League MVP during our hiatus. In fact, I believe most of Summer League happened while we were not doing this podcast. Your interest levels may vary as far as how much Summer League matters when it comes to NBA basketball. I know there were some talking about NHL development camp with the Mammoth and saying that might not be a very big deal. Kind of a similar deal with Summer League. You know, how far away are these players from actually playing meaningful minutes on a playoff caliber type team? Who's to say? But, you know, it can't be a bad thing to be named Summer League MVP. Kyle Filipowski, second-year player, coming in for the Jazz. Solid rookie campaign, playing alongside guys like Isaiah Collier, who was also a rookie last year. Cody Williams, also a rookie last year. It's got to be promising, at least, for these players to get some recognition, show that they're on that list of what one might say too good for Summer League. I think that's where you want to be. If you want to be a consistent NBA talent, you want to be too good for Summer League. And so we'll see, Kyle Filipowski alongside Walker Kessler, Lauri Markkanen. Can that be, your future bigs here with the Utah Jazz? You add alongside Ace Bailey there on the wing. We'll see what they can make of it this season. We've still got a little ways to go before NBA training camp starts up in September, October, around there. We'll have Euro basketball, kind of the equivalent of the World Cup not quite World Cup. I guess the Euros in soccer, the equivalent for basketball. So you can have players like Lauri Markkanen with Finland. You had Rudy Gobert with France in the past. Players like Victor Wembanyama on my San Antonio Spurs playing for France. Hope to see him back in that tournament. That will be starting up at the end of August. And we're not too far out, folks. This upcoming week, we're already in August come Friday. So the times are a-changing. We're heading back into fall sports, football camps starting up. So this will likely be one of our last podcasts in these summer doldrum times without a bunch of big time headline type news. But we do have one little nugget for you before we go into soccer. A little bit of football news. We've covered the Jake Retzlaff saga, leaving BYU over the last few weeks. Well, he ended up finding his next destination, his next school after BYU. He'll be going to Tulane in the American Conference, and where he'll compete for the starting quarterback job in New Orleans. So BYU will have a new quarterback. Jake Retzlaff officially gone, going to a different school, no longer at BYU. And plenty more to come on that as we head into August, where that quarterback battle will be taking place for BYU among several contenders. Utah, a little bit of a different situation. They've already got their expected starter in Devin Dampier. So not as much of a question mark, but plenty of other positions to look at as we go into August among these different teams. High school football obviously starting up here soon. If you're interested in a little bit of that, you want a little taste of high school football, Josh Furlong over at KSL.com, a quick write-up on the top-ranked football prospect in the 2027 class, so heading in to be a junior this year, Crew Jones. So if you're into recruiting, into high school football, feel free to check that out. Just a little teaser to help tide you over until we start talking more about high school and college football in August. We'll have all the treats for you. We'll have our top 20 plus one over at KSL.com with all the high school football teams ranked. We will have plenty of coverage from BYU football, Utah football, and everything you guys want to hear about over on KSL.com. Lastly, another bit of housekeeping news, or a little bit of a headline here. The Utah Grizzlies, the minor league hockey team. We talk about the Bees, kind of on this similar level here. Utah Grizzlies, their owner passed away a few months ago, and it was announced a couple weeks ago that the team would be looking into selling the Utah Grizzlies. Well, that ended up happening. West Valley City, who was a part owner of the Utah Grizzlies, authorized a sale that will most likely set up relocation for the Grizzlies outside of Utah. So farewell to them. Obviously, they weren't the minor league affiliate for the Utah Mammoth anyway. That team is down in Tucson, so not a whole lot of direct correlation with NHL. But I'm sure a lot of you have great memories going out there to the Maverick Center. Before the Mammoth were here, all you had was the Grizzlies, so a little sad to see them most likely heading out. We'll see what comes of the Maverick Center, and in the meantime, we've got renovations still going on at the Delta Center, so which should set up hockey for a much more enjoyable experience this upcoming season for those of you looking to go to Mammoth games. So that's just kind of a quick run through some of those headlines. Before we dive in a little more in depth into what has been going on with Real Salt Lake, they've been on a roll as of late. Within just these 2 weeks since we haven't been podcasting, in the month of July, overall 5 total games. I believe 4 of those were at home. And RSL got 4 wins in those 5 games in the month of July. Just 1 loss. And since the calendar turned to June, RSL with, let's count them, 5 wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss in those 7 games. So a big turnaround for a team that went 7 games without a win in the month of May. So things have really flipped for RSL, and it's interesting because not much has really changed with the team or the players. We're just barely getting into the transfer window for MLS. It just opened up a few days ago, and there's been rumors about some players who will be coming to Real Salt Lake, a couple forwards, a Brazilian and a Nigerian, one from a Brazilian team and another from a European team in Prague, I believe, in Czechia. Both bigger kind of target forwards that should be able to fill a bit of a gap that RSL has had up top trying to score goals. A lot of that burden has fallen on guys like Diego Luna and Diogo Gonçalves, Xavier Gozo, who play more outside the box in kind of the winger positions. But they haven't had that guy who just gets in the box. Like I know many of you, I'm sure, watched Chicho Arango last season with RSL. Gets in the box, heads it in, finishes off those crosses, and is just, I believe, a killer in front of goal is the way head coach Pablo Mastroeni has referred to it. And so RSL hoping to get that player in this transfer window. But even without reinforcements coming, they've managed to turn some things around. I wrote about it a couple weeks ago in one of the recaps. I believe it was when they beat Houston, talking about how this team was able to get back to its gritty ways, grit and grind type team. Underdog, ex-dog is a way that Matt Doyle over at MLSsoccer.com has described them. A play on the expected goals XG stat, calling it ex-dog, that extra little fight that RSL is able to get out of their players to get those wins. 2 clean sheets in the month of July, 1-0 wins over over Houston and Portland. And then just last night, a 2-1 win over San Jose and the guy I just mentioned, Chicho Arango. It was a comeback win. San Jose scoring first, RSL gets an own goal, and then gets a game winner from Brian Ojeda. So a big moment there. Ojeda's first goal of the season. I mentioned RSL, went winless in 7 games in the month of May. At the end of that month, I actually have a note in my phone that is marked June 1st at like 1 a.m. or something. As I dove into some stats and tried to figure out what exactly was going wrong with this team. I think I probably mentioned a lot of what I researched on this podcast, and a lot of it had to do with players in the group, the age group of Brian Ojeda, the experienced players, 24 and older, who you're supposed to be able to depend on. In tougher moments, they're supposed to be able to pick up the slack and fill in when younger guys show their lack of experience, and score goals and get assists and all that. And up until last night, Brian Ojeda, the starting central midfielder for RSL, did not have an assist or a goal, so no goal contributions, which obviously is not what you want from a starting midfielder. So a big kind of shift there as players have started to pick up the slack, pick up their responsibilities. It started with Diogo Gonçalves, as I mentioned, playing in kind of that attacking midfielder winger position. He got a couple of goals, 2 in 3 games, I believe, earlier this month in July. And then you look at players like Pablo Ruiz. I believe he was able to get an assist. And so as you get contributions from more players that are not named Diego Luna, this team starts to become more balanced. They're able to win in different ways. And even when they don't get a clean sheet, like last night, they give up the goal first to San Jose. They're able to come back and fight through it and still get a 2-1 win, which then takes them into the Leagues Cup break, which will be the time over these next couple of weeks when RSL or MLS teams will play against Liga MX teams, the Mexican clubs, in a tournament between the two countries, essentially, and that begins on Wednesday for RSL against Club America from Mexico. So a bit of a break there before MLS play resumes later in August. So this is a kind of like an all-star break type period. You can think of it that way. The all-star game did just happen last week in Austin, where Diego Luna was. I actually we ran into him in the airport. We were headed to New York. He was headed to Austin. And I said, better get ready. It's hot and humid down there. And guess what? It was hot and humid in New York as well. So I guess you just can't escape it if you head east of Utah, I guess, because here it's just hot and dry. Other places hot and humid. You walk out and you just start sweating immediately, which is not very fun. But mentioning, Diego Luna, obviously he's been the best player for Real Salt Lake this season. 8 goals, 4 assists. Still looking for another goal after returning from his big Gold Cup kind of breakout journey in June. But he got a big head start on it, so he's got a little bit of leeway. We'll cut him a bit of slack as we head into the second half of the season. And I didn't mention this, which is that RSL is in a great position heading into the second half of the season because they are now in a playoff spot. That win over San Jose, they were right next to each other in the standings. So that helps to vault you up a position or two. RSL moving from, I think they were in 10th place up into 8th place. The top 9 teams in each conference make the playoffs. So RSL now technically in a playoff spot. If the season ended today, they would be in the playoffs and actually not even in the final spot. Colorado is in the 9th spot. So big move there for RSL heading into the home stretch which, as we count them here, 4 games in August on the MLS schedule, 4 games in September, and then 2 games in October. So 10 games once they return from this kind of mid-season, in-season tournament type thing with Leagues Cup. 10 games home stretch to make it into the playoffs, cement that position, whether they stick around that 8th spot or you could even move up. It's very close there in the standings between those last several teams. In fact, I could pull it up right now and let you know just how close they are. Western Conference, like I mentioned, RSL in 8th place with 31 points. Just above them is Austin with 33 points. It takes a bit of a jump after that with LAFC at 36 points. But it is pretty close with the teams below RSL. Colorado with 30, San Jose 29, Houston with 27. So there's a lot of, you could rise or you could fall. A little bit more likely to fall at this point, unfortunately. If you lose a couple games and San Jose and Houston win a couple, you slide back in to that 10 or 11 spot, and just like that, you are out of the playoffs. So I think we can agree that RSL still could use some help. So those rumors that I mentioned of some forwards coming in to score some more goals, obviously will be very much appreciated, I'm sure. And the one elephant in the room, which I decided to kind of address head on tonight, is whether or not Diego Luna will be here for that home stretch of the last 10 games into August and September. I mentioned earlier this year on this podcast that Pablo Mastroeni, the head coach, had mentioned that he would be surprised if Luna was still in Utah after the summer transfer window, which is a bit of a kind of nebulous situation, working between MLS and European teams. I believe most European leagues start their seasons kind of early to mid-August. The MLS transfer window goes until mid to late August, so there's some kind of strange overlap there into figuring out, what kind of deadline are we looking at here as far as when Diego Luna could be moved. If I remember correctly, Andreas Gomez was not moved until August last year to France, so we're certainly not quite there. We're at July 27th, head into August next weekend. So there's still some time for a move to happen for Diego Luna, like that prediction by his head coach kind of prognosticated. Obviously, there was a lot of talk around the Gold Cup about potential offers coming in to Real Salt Lake to bring Diego Luna to Europe. Obviously, there were rumors about Mexico, too. In fact, Club America, the very team that RSL was playing against on Wednesday, was one of those teams that was rumored during the Gold Cup. There was a lot flying around those couple weeks. It's hard to tell exactly how credible each of those rumors were, but nothing concrete has happened yet. And so I took it to the masses. I decided to ask the people of X, of Twitter, what they thought. So I posed the poll on my profile earlier today. Will Diego Luna still be on RSL in September? Because, like I mentioned, I had to give a bit of leeway. I couldn't say August because the transfer windows don't quite match up. So we'll give it all the way to September for him to. We'll give him the whole month of August to possibly make a move. But will he be here September 1st? And as of right now, 188 votes, which is not a ton, but not insignificant. 69% saying yes, around 31% saying no. So a majority feeling optimistic about their chances of Diego Luna sticking around. It was kind of split for a while there as I watched those votes coming in, but now it's leaning more towards staying, which makes sense because, like I mentioned, we haven't seen a concrete offer, a real solid rumor coming through by the likes of Tom Bogert, Fabrizio Romano, who are kind of these Adrian Wojnarowskis of soccer, if you will, the guys who break news on player movement in the world of soccer. Just haven't really gotten it. I think Tom posted something about a Spanish club being among those interested a couple weeks ago, but mentioned that there had been no talks officially with Real Salt Lake. They had not received an official offer. So it's kind of a little strange what's going on there. it's almost as if, maybe maybe a message has gone out to say, hey, he's staying for the rest of the year. Don't send in offers. But there does appear to be interest nonetheless. But hey, if you believe the conglomerate of RSL fans and other people on Twitter who are voting in my poll as to whether or not Diego Luna will be part of this home stretch for RSL, majority is saying yes. So he'll be alongside that crew of Diogo Gonçalves and Xavier Gozo and these newcomers, as far as who we're looking at to score goals for RSL. Ruan Cruz is the Brazilian player that was mentioned, and then Victor Olatunji from Prague is the other one, originally from Nigeria, Olatunji. So both reported by Tom Bogert, who is the most reputable MLS insider when it comes to player movement. So it appears that those two players will likely be coming to RSL within this summer transfer window, which just opened up this week and goes until about the third week of August. And I also heard from some people within the club that there would be plenty of news coming in the upcoming days and week, which leads me to think, either players coming in or players leaving, or maybe even both. Who knows? It is that time of year when crazy things happen. We always see a rush of players in and out as they look to start the season with those who are starting their seasons in August. So bit of an interesting timing there. Diogo Gonçalves was one of those players who was brought in last summer, and we've already had one leave. RSL Nelson Palacio left on a loan to another team just a couple weeks ago. So the player movement has begun. Look for it to continue. But whether or not, these players change, RSL is on a run right now. We'll see if that continues into Leagues Cup. This tournament has been interesting for RSL in recent years. They've done pretty well, but then it's kind of interrupted the run or the rhythm of the form that they've been in during MLS play when they return after this tournament. So we'll see how they handle it, what kind of lineups they put out, who all plays in this tournament. Maybe it'll be a different group from the group that plays in MLS. For those of you who remember earlier this year when RSL was in CONCACAF, they kind of put out a totally different squad in that tournament than they did in MLS games. So we'll see if that happens again. I don't know if that's beneficial. Maybe you just want to keep you got a good thing going. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Maybe just keep running it, and you run right into MLS games when they start back up in late August. So we'll keep you updated on that. Like I mentioned, first game is on Wednesday at America First Field against Club America. So for you soccer fans or sports fans who are bored with not a whole lot else going on, you got that. We've got some Bees games going on. And we've got Mammoth Week. I forgot to mention this, but going down, starting in Logan and finishing up in St. George, the Mammoth are going city by city this week, hosting challenges, games, street hockey, clinics. They got merch, giveaways, obviously, players making appearances. I believe this upcoming week, the next just couple days, will be the Salt Lake ones. If I remember right, it's a Cottonwood one, and then down in Utah Valley, there's one down at Provo Peaks before they finish up the week heading down towards southern Utah. So make sure you check out that schedule. Obviously, it's on all the Utah Mammoth social media channels. So if you're bored, go check out some street hockey. Go check out whatever the Mammoth have going on at Mammoth Week. It's not quite Shark Week, but they're trying their best to make it interesting. Maybe it'll be more fun if they travel around with the full skeleton of the mammoth from down there in that museum in Fairview, Utah. Huh? Should take that thing on tour? People might enjoy looking at that too. Well, hope you guys enjoyed this one, and we will catch you next week. Thank you.